Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham and we're live in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C. And over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the United States and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, here's a look at the latest headlines. Russian security forces kill 4 ISIS members who were reportedly planning to carry out terror attacks in the Dagestan Republic. Authorities recover grenades, explosives, and automatic weapons from the operation. A Hong Kong-based company that operates 2 ports at the Panama Canal have offered to sell its operations to American investment firm BlackRock. This comes weeks after President Donald Trump complained about China operating the canal. Arab leaders backed by Saudi Arabia reject President Trump's plan to take over Gaza. The nations proposed a reconstruction plan for the strip that would cost more than $50 billion. The death toll from 2 suicide bombings at a Pakistan military base rises to 18. At least 5 Pakistani soldiers were killed in the attack. And tech giant Google reportedly urges the Department of Justice to back away from breaking up the firm. The DOJ proposed to split Google in November of last year over its monopolistic business practices. We begin on Capitol Hill, where President Donald Trump addressed a joint session of Congress last night and laid out a vision for his administration, calling it the renewal of the American dream. However, the speech that lasted almost an hour and 39 minutes included at least 14 false statements made by the president. Commander-in-Chief made misleading claims about how much aid the U.S. has sent to Ukraine, exaggerated claims about autism in the country, and misquoted the figure of Social Security beneficiaries over the age of 100, among other infactual data. However, Donald Trump repeatedly mentioned 2 topics: cracking down on illegal migrants and ending DEI hiring, along with transgender rights.
Since taking office, my administration has launched the most sweeping border and immigration crackdown in American history, and we quickly achieved the lowest numbers of illegal border crossers ever recorded. We've ended the tyranny of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies all across the entire federal government and indeed the private sector and our military. And our country will be woke no longer. And I signed an order making it the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders, male and female.
Now, while President Donald Trump went on and on about how much he dislikes the woke ideology, he also had praises for his billionaire buddy Elon Musk. The president repeatedly lauded the work Musk and DOGE are undertaking, despite DOGE miscalculating $86 billion worth of funds during their audit, forcing them to redo the math.
Further combat inflation, we will not only be reducing the cost of energy, but will be ending the flagrant waste of taxpayer dollars. And to that end, I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it, perhaps. Which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight. The Government Accountability Office, a federal government office, has estimated annual fraud of over $500 billion in our nation, and we are working very hard to stop it. We're going to. And any federal bureaucrat who resists this change will be removed from office immediately. Because we are draining the swamp. It's very simple. And the days of rule by unelected bureaucrats are over.
Now, the Democrats were quick to rebut the commander-in-chief, with many saying that President Trump is living in a parallel universe.
Heard tonight, President Trump has been very effective in creating what I would call a parallel universe for his supporters. A set of ideas that either have no basis in reality or in the great scheme of things are nowhere near the most important concerns of the American people.
Democrats attended the address with protest signs, while Democratic Representative Al Green of Texas was removed from the chamber for disrupting the president's speech. Apart from domestic issues, President Trump also touched upon his ties with President Volodymyr Zelensky and a possible mineral deal with Ukraine. The president also demanded Hamas return the remaining hostages being held in Gaza while announcing reciprocal tariffs on India starting in April. With First Lady Melania Trump in the gallery, but Republicans cheered the conclusion of the president's speech with chants of "fight, fight, fight," words which Donald Trump first echoed after he was struck by a bullet during campaigning of last year. A constellation of Starlink satellites beam internet across the globe. But there is more to this story than global connectivity. Scientists fear that what's floating above could harm what's below. Because with a lifespan of 5 years, Starlink satellites eventually burn up and return to Earth, releasing harmful aluminum oxide particles. And these invisible specks could trigger chemical reactions that harm the ozone layer. With more than 7,000 Starlink satellites in orbit, the balance between innovation and environmental impact is lost in space. Our next report uncovers the hidden cost of Starlink internet.
Elon Musk's Starlink satellites promised internet for everyone. But are they silently damaging the planet? In January 2025, 120 Starlink satellites burnt up in space. The skies shimmered with stunning artificial meteor showers. Now, one could take it to be a cosmic show, right? But maybe not. Because behind the beauty lies an invisible danger. Each re-entry releases aluminium oxide particles. These tiny particles could harm the ozone layer. The ozone protects life on Earth from harmful UV rays. Starlink satellites orbit between 550 to 1,200 kilometers high. Their lifespan is short, which is around 5 years. And Starlink's re-entry speed hits around 27,000 kilometers per hour. This friction creates intense heat. The heat then vaporizes the satellites completely, and aluminium turns into aluminium oxide particles. One Starlink satellite leaves behind 30 kilograms of these particles, and they float in the atmosphere for decades. Now, even though the danger isn't immediate, it's not like it won't happen. In 2023, NASA detected metal particles in Alaska's skies. Aluminium oxide levels increased 8-fold between 2016 and 2022. And in 2022 alone, satellites released 41.7 metric tons of aluminium, which is 30% more than the natural cosmic dust. If launches continue, emissions could hit 360 metric tons annually. That's 646% higher than natural levels. And the worst part? The damage won't appear for decades. And by then, the atmosphere could be packed with particles.
At 10%, the current fraction of stratospheric aerosol with metal cores is not large. But over 5,000 satellites have been launched in the past 5 years. Most of them will come back in the next 5, and we need to know how that might further affect stratospheric aerosols.
Now, even though solutions exist, none are perfect. Satellites could use safer materials or move to graveyard orbits, but that takes more fuel and money. The European Space Agency's Zero Debris Initiative hopes to fix this by the year 2030. And even though Elon Musk's SpaceX is talking, they are taking no action yet.
They're pushing the envelope in multiple ways, not just with the spacewalk. They're also going to a much higher altitude with a more severe radiation environment than we've been to since Apollo. And so there's a question of exactly how the electronics are going to withstand and perform in that environment. So that's that's an additional risk that you don't face when you just stay in low Earth orbit and go up to the ISS. But yeah, the EVA is definitely the spacewalk is definitely the riskiest of all the things that they're doing.
Instead, the billionaire is on a shopping spree. SpaceX is planning to invest at least $1.8 billion to build new Starship launch pads and processing facilities on Florida's Space Coast. The head of one of Europe's largest satellite manufacturers, the France-based Thales, has highlighted the risks to governments of relying too heavily on private satellite constellations in an apparent warning. And without naming Starlink, the Thales CEO even went on to describe the risks of relying on outside services for government links.
Government actors need reliability, visibility, and stability. When you operate government communications, you don't necessarily want to be dependent on an external person, whoever that is. That is why the vast majority of government infrastructure in Europe is owned or has been purchased.
Now, without a doubt, Musk's Starlink satellites are changing the world. But could they also be breaking it? As of February 27th, there are more than 7,000 Starlink satellites in orbit. And with a lifespan of just 5 years, these thousands of satellites are bound to re-enter Earth's atmosphere and burn on the way down. The night sky may glow brighter, but the unseen price might be too high. Is this the dawn of a connected world, or the beginning of space enthusiast Musk's fading legacy?
And as Europe scrambles to find a solution in Ukraine, cracks seem to be appearing among the Union. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has voiced strong reservations against the peace proposal put forward by France and Britain. The joint proposal by President Emmanuel Macron and Prime Minister Keir Starmer includes a one-month truce along with the deployment of European soldiers in Ukraine as peacekeepers. However, Prime Minister Meloni has now expressed doubts about Italy's participation in the deployment of troops.
I have expressed my position on this. I expressed perplexity, and I continue to be perplexed about the fact that, let's say, about the possibility to use European troops in Ukraine. And this in addition to the fact that the presence of Italian troops in Ukraine at this stage has never been the order of the day, just to be clear. I repeat, so I want to thank France and I thank Great Britain certainly for trying to find solutions. I have expressed my doubts on several occasions, also obviously to my colleagues, but about the effectiveness of a solution of this type because of what we know is, in short, the reality of the conflict in Ukraine. So in the end, the only thing that we really cannot afford is a peace that does not remain, and this cannot be afforded. Ukraine cannot afford it, Europe cannot afford it, the United States cannot afford it.
The Italian leader has emphasized that the deployment of NATO troops in Ukraine would lead to divisions within the European Union, giving Russia the advantage. However, Prime Minister Starmer doubled down on his proposal, demanding NATO allies to join the fight in defending Ukraine as the United States cuts military aid to Kyiv.
Not every nation will feel able to contribute, but that can't mean that we sit back. Instead, those willing will intensify planning now with real urgency. We are at a crossroads in history today. This is not a moment for more talk. It's time to act, time to step up and lead, and to unite around a new plan for a just and enduring peace.
And as Europe unites to fight against Putin's invasion, President Trump maintains his stance of only helping Ukraine if they agree to a minerals deal.
Earlier today, I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you. I appreciate that he sent this letter, just got it a little while ago. Simultaneously, we've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful?
And now European leaders remain concerned about Washington's commitment to help end the war in Ukraine, particularly with President Trump repeatedly calling for Europe to do the heavy lifting. But with Italy's right-wing Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who is also a close ally of President Trump, opting out of the truce plan proposed by France and Britain, Europe is looking more divided than ever as the United States refuses to play a more proactive role. And from Europe, we now move to South America. And in this case, there's loyalty, and then there's Javier Milei's loyalty. The Argentine president, known for his theatrical politics and chainsaw-wielding antics, has just performed the digital equivalent of erasing a relationship after a breakup. As all photos of his once enthusiastic meetings with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky have mysteriously vanished from his social media pages. And the timing of the deletion is suspiciously auspicious, because just days ago, President Zelensky found himself in a fiery face-off with President Trump in the Oval Office. And now, like a loyal friend, the Argentine president has quietly distanced himself from President Zelensky. It's a dramatic shift for President Milei, who once wrapped President Zelensky in a warm embrace during his swearing-in ceremony in 2023. But cracks began to show when Argentina abstained from a UN resolution demanding Russia's immediate withdrawal from Ukrainian territories. But this isn't the first time the Argentine leader has played shadow to President Trump. In fact, his entire political brand seems to be an Argentine remix of the MAGA doctrine. In fact, last month, he took a page straight out of President Trump's playbook and announced Argentina's withdrawal from the World Health Organization, accusing it of crimes against humanity over its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic.
President Javier Milei instructed Foreign Minister Gerardo Wertheim to withdraw Argentina's participation in the World Health Organization. We Argentines will not allow an international organization to intervene in our sovereignty, much less our health. On the contrary, it gives the country greater flexibility to implement policies adapted to the context, interests that Argentina requires, as well as greater availability of resources, and reaffirms our path towards a country with sovereignty also in matters of health.
And not stopping there, President Milei's war on wokeism isn't just rhetoric. Just weeks ago, his government banned gender-affirming care for minors, a move that triggered an immediate outcry from the LGBTQ+ activists.
And along these same lines, I tell you that the national government also decided to modify the gender identity law and prohibit hormone treatment and body adaptation surgeries in children under 18 years of age. The gender identity law today allows people to undergo hormone treatment and surgical interventions to adapt their body to the gender with which they effectively identify.
And for the Argentine leader, politics isn't just about governance, it's about optics. Whether it's erasing digital ties with President Zelensky, wielding a chainsaw with Elon Musk, or mirroring President Trump's every move, Milei's alliances aren't just strategic, they're spectacle. But in a world where allies can turn enemies, the real question is, when the tides turn, who will Milei erase next? And finally, we head to Hollywood and look at Meghan Markle's new Netflix show titled With Love, Meghan. Markle takes viewers inside her carefully curated Montecito dream world, where she whips up picture-perfect meals and throws tea parties that would make Martha Stewart weep. With celebrity guests, impeccably arranged crudité, and a numbered jar system for jams, With Love, Meghan is the lifestyle show you never knew you even needed. Whether you love her, loathe her, or just want to know how to make cocktails with a pinch of royalty, here's why the Duchess of Sussex is trending.
Meghan Markle is back on our screens. And no, it's not a tell-all interview or a new Suits reboot. This time, she's here to teach us mere mortals the art of living well. Or at least the art of looking like we do. Enter With Love, Meghan. An 8-episode lifestyle show where the Duchess of Sussex graciously allows us to peek inside a perfectly curated candle-scented version of her Montecito life. Think home-cooked meals, artfully arranged florals, deep thoughts about healing, and an uncanny ability to be both relatable and wildly unattainable at the same time. Each episode is set in a stunning simulation of Meghan and Harry's Montecito mansion, because apparently even an actual multi-million-dollar estate isn't quite camera-ready enough. Here, she bakes, crafts, and effortlessly glides through various domestic tasks in an array of chic, neutral-toned outfits, usually barefoot. This is to really drive home the whole earthy goddess vibe. With soft glowing lighting that could make a pile of laundry look cinematic, and sweeping shots of Santa Barbara's ocean views, the show looks like something out of an anthropologic fever dream. The soundtrack, a carefully curated blend of 70s soft rock, yacht rock, and French dinner music. And let's not forget the camera work. It's intimate, sun-dappled, and just gauzy enough to make sure Meghan always looks like she just emerged from a wellness retreat. This is lifestyle content on a whole new level. In the show, Meghan isn't just hosting anyone. her guest list includes Hollywood power players, former Suits co-stars, and the kind of celebrity chefs who know how to drizzle olive oil just so. Mindy Kaling, Roy Choi, Alice Waters, and Abigail Spencer all stop by, presumably to bask in Meghan's effortlessly curated domestic bliss. The conversations, a mix of casual chat, heartfelt reflections, and just the right amount of subtle shade. At one point, Meghan raises a glass to a new chapter of her life, which some may interpret as a dig at her royal past. Over the 8 episodes, she whips up a series of impressively photogenic dishes, like artful charcuterie boards because store-bought hummus is for peasants, mason jar cocktails because glasses are so last season, whimsical crostini that look like ladybugs. So how has the world received With Love Meghan? Well, let's just say the British press isn't exactly adding it to their must-watch lists. The Guardian called it gomless lifestyle filler, translation, pretty but pointless. The Independent labelled it queasy and exhausting. Did they mean the show or just the effort of pretending we can all live like this? The Times took issue with the desperate upbeatness because, God forbid, someone be enthusiastic about serving a well-assembled fruit platter. The Telegraph declared it an exercise in narcissism, summing it up as Meghan invites people to a fake house, they tell her she's amazing, and we do this for 8 episodes. But not everyone was sharpening their knives. Vogue found the show's cooking and floral arranging segments interesting and relatable. Relatable for whom remains unclear. Meanwhile, Harper's Bazaar saw the show as Meghan going back to her roots. Is With Love Meghan an inspiring, aesthetically perfect escape into the world of homemade jam and handwritten menus? Absolutely. Is it also an unintentionally hilarious masterclass in aspirational living that no normal human could possibly replicate? Without a doubt. Well, at least the show offers something for everyone.
That's Firstpost America for this Wednesday. I'm Eric Ham, signing off from our studios here in Washington. Thanks everyone so much for tuning in.